Ever heard the saying, "Don't judge a book by its cover"? Well, today we are diving into 3 insane true stories where people did exactly that, and it backfired in the most epic way imaginable. These are real-life tales of billionaires in flip-flops, landlords mistaken for janitors, and CEOs hiding in plain sight. Get ready, because these stories are going to make you think twice before you ever underestimate someone again. Our first story takes us to a high-end luxury car dealership. Picture this: shiny new sports cars, the smell of expensive leather, and salespeople in sharp suits. Into this scene walks a man in his late 30s, dressed in a faded t-shirt, worn-out shorts, and a pair of simple flip-flops. He starts browsing the showroom, looking at the top-of-the-line models. The salespeople exchange glances. One of them, let's call him Alex, sighs and reluctantly walks over. He'd been hoping for a big commission, and this guy just didn't look the part. "Can I help you?" Alex asks, his tone barely hiding his disinterest. The man, whose name was Lynn, smiled and pointed to the most expensive convertible on the floor. "I'd like to know more about this one," he said. Alex gave a practiced, condescending smile. "Sir, this is a very high-performance vehicle. Perhaps something a little more practical would be a better fit." He tried to steer Lynn towards the used car section, but Lynn was persistent. He asked about engine specs, horsepower, and financing options. Each question was met with a vague answer and a dismissive wave of the hand from Alex. Finally, Alex lost his patience. "Look, I have serious customers waiting. Unless you're planning on buying today, I really don't have time for this." Lynn's smile faded. He simply said, "Fine. I'll take it." Alex blinked, thinking it was a joke. "You'll take it? With what?" Lynn pulled out his phone, made a quick call, and said a few words in a language Alex didn't understand. A few minutes later, a well-dressed assistant rushed into the dealership holding a briefcase. He opened it, revealing stacks of cash. Alex's jaw hit the floor. As Lynn was signing the paperwork, the dealership manager came running out, apologizing profusely. It turns out, Lynn wasn't just some random guy. He was a low-profile tech billionaire who had just sold his company. He preferred dressing comfortably and hated showing off his wealth. He had intended to buy 10 cars that day for his top employees as a bonus. After the disrespectful treatment, he bought just the one and walked out, leaving a stunned Alex and a furious manager behind. Alex lost not just one, but 10 potential massive commissions, all because he judged a billionaire by his flip-flops. Next up, let's meet Mrs. Chen, a kind, elderly woman in her late 60s. She owned a small apartment building, a property her late husband had worked his entire life to buy. After he passed, managing the building became her way of staying busy and honoring his memory. She wasn't a wealthy woman by any means. The rental income was just enough to live on. To save money, she did most of the maintenance herself. Every morning, you could find her sweeping the lobby, wiping down the mailboxes, or mopping the hallways. She took pride in keeping the building spotless for her tenants. However, some of the newer, younger tenants didn't see a dedicated landlord. They saw an old cleaning lady. They would walk past her without a word, drop trash on the floor right after she'd cleaned, and talk loudly on their phones about how the janitor missed a spot. One tenant, a young professional named Mark, was particularly rude. He would often complain directly to her. "Hey, can you make sure you scrub the entryway better? I tracked in some dirt yesterday and it was still there this morning," he'd say, not even making eye contact. Mrs. Chen, being humble and non-confrontational, would just nod and apologize, cleaning up after him without a word of protest. This went on for months. Mark and his friends would openly mock her, calling her the help and making jokes at her expense within earshot. The breaking point came during a tenants' association meeting. Mark stood up and went on a rant about the building's poor management. "We pay good rent here, but the services are terrible. The landlord is never around, and all we have is this old cleaning lady who can barely keep the place tidy. We should demand a rent reduction." The other disrespectful tenants nodded in agreement. There was a moment of silence. Then, Mrs. Chen, who had been quietly sitting in the back, stood up. She walked to the front of the room. "My name is Mrs. Chen," she began, her voice calm but firm. "My late husband and I bought this building 30 years ago. I am the landlord." You could have heard a pin drop. The color drained from Mark's face. He started to stammer an apology, but Mrs. Chen continued. "I clean this building myself because I care about it, and I care about the people who live here. I treat it as my home." Clearly, Some of you do not. The next day, Mark and several other tenants received official notices. Their leases would not be renewed. The news spread like wildfire, and the remaining tenants suddenly had a newfound respect for the quiet, hard-working woman who mopped the floors. They learned a powerful lesson. The person you look down on might just be the one who holds your lease. For our final story, we go inside the corporate world. Imagine a huge, multinational company with thousands of employees. The CEO, Mr. Harrison, was a legend. He had built the company from the ground up, but he felt he was losing touch with the day-to-day reality of his workers. He worried that his executive team was only showing him the good news, hiding the problems that festered at the lower levels. So, he decided to do something radical. He was going to go undercover. With the help of a wig, fake glasses, and a completely new identity, the 60-year-old CEO became Dave, a 25-year-old intern starting his first day in the mailroom. No one had a clue. From day one, Dave was treated like he was invisible. His supervisor barely gave him the time of day, senior employees ordered him around to grab coffee, and his colleagues in the intern pool saw him as an old, out-of-touch guy who was probably trying a career change way too late in life. They excluded him from their lunch groups and inside jokes. But Mr. Harrison, as Dave, was a sponge. He listened to everything. He heard the mailroom staff complain about inefficient delivery routes that his executives had designed. He saw talented, hard-working junior employees get their ideas stolen by middle managers. He experienced firsthand the frustrating, outdated software that customer service had been begging to have replaced for years. He saw bullying, inefficiency, and wasted potential everywhere he looked. He was also deeply impressed by a few employees who, despite everything, remained positive, helped the new intern out, and showed incredible dedication to their work, even when no one was watching. After 2 months, the undercover operation was over. Mr. Harrison called a company-wide town hall meeting. He walked on stage as the CEO everyone knew. Then, halfway through his speech, he started talking about a new intern named Dave. He talked about Dave's experiences. As he spoke, he slowly removed his glasses and wig. Gasps echoed through the auditorium. The supervisors who had ignored him, the managers who had stolen ideas, the colleagues who had mocked him, they all looked horrified. In the weeks that followed, a massive restructuring took place. The toxic middle managers who took credit for others' work were fired. The hard-working employees he'd met, the ones who showed kindness and integrity, were promoted and given raises. The inefficient systems were overhauled based on the feedback he'd gathered from the ground floor. Mr. Harrison didn't just expose the problems, he fixed them, and he rewarded the unsung heroes of his company. He proved that sometimes, to truly understand your kingdom, the king has to walk amongst the commoners. So, what can we learn from these 3 incredible stories? That wealth isn't always loud. That titles don't define a person's worth. And that the person you dismiss today might just be the person who signs your paycheck or your eviction notice tomorrow. Real power and value aren't always dressed in a suit and tie. Sometimes, they're in flip-flops, holding a mop, or disguised as a humble intern. It's a powerful reminder to treat everyone with respect, regardless of how they appear. You simply never know who you're talking to. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed these stories, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more amazing true tales. Let us know in the comments if you've ever had a similar experience. See you next time.